If you are watching this show right now, statistically speaking, there's a pretty good chance that you also like watching The Daily Show. The Daily Show has been on the air for almost 20 years now. Next year will be 15 years, with the show being hosted by the great Jon Stewart. The Daily Show airs on Comedy Central, and even though it handles very current events, sometimes even very arcane matters of policy and politics, the line from The Daily Show geniuses has always been that they are fake, that they are a fake news show. And so, yeah, they may be informing their audience about what's going on in the world, but they shouldn't be seen as news. They're fake news. Fair enough. Arguable, because they cover a lot of actual news and people do learn about what's going on in the world through the lens of The Daily Show's comedy writers and Jon Stewart. But fair enough, they say it, and to a certain extent it's true. They are a fake news show. But they are a fake news show that occasionally makes real news by virtue of their fake correspondents getting real interviews with real people who they persuade to actually say what they really mean. Por ejemplo.
Now, how come the homosexuals aren't defending us Christians with our right to be able to express ourselves?
At what point has your right to express yourself been infringed upon?
I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'm concerned about it. I have a radio show. I'm just concerned about any oppression that may come.
Sure.
That people might say, Matt, you can't say that on the radio, that homosexuality is a sin.
It's like you can't even go on the radio anymore and condemn a whole subset of people to hell without getting some blowback.
Well, when you put it that way, it does sound rather arrogant, myopic, narrow-minded, and bigoted.
Good. Then I've done my job.
That was Samantha Bee on The Daily Show in June. It doesn't happen every night on that show, but when our civilization is gone and they dig up the time capsule that we saved for the aliens or whatever, to show the aliens that we really were worth something as a species in this era on Earth, when they dig up that time capsule, it will be these tell them what you really mean clips from Daily Show correspondents that will explain to the aliens in the future why we, at this time on Earth, rightfully worship the gods of satire.
Let's solve this. Let's solve this right here, right now.
Let's do it.
We just want our government back open. So what do?
Defund Obamacare. The GOP is trying to save the American people from a disastrous health care plan. We don't have joy in the shutdown.
Can you just give us back our government? And when you do, include Obamacare, because it's the law.
It is law. But it's not good law. It's unconstitutional. It's unconstitutional.
Even though the Supreme Court deemed it constitutional.
The Supreme Court deemed it constitutional, but it had to go to the Supreme Court to do so. And they still don't know what's in the bill.
The Supreme Court didn't read the bill. I feel the same way. Can we just stop this whole interview, please? You know, it's just a vicious circle. You dig your heels in, you say something stupid.
It's a stupid law.
Then I give a generically witty response like, yes, affordable health care for millions of unemployed people is stupid. Then these dummies laugh. But where does it end?
It ends with defunding Obamacare.
Oh, I'm done. I hate this job.
The Daily Show, national treasure. But last night, our fake news comedy overlords at The Daily Show made real news again. And news that has now today cost a North Carolina Republican Party official his job, when Asif Manzvi from The Daily Show went to North Carolina to cover the new law there that restricts voting rights. That law was able to be passed in North Carolina, of course, because the Supreme Court this summer gutted the Voting Rights Act, which the Justice Department used to use to block voting laws like this because of their racially discriminatory effect. The Supreme Court struck down the heart of the Voting Rights Act, and Republicans took over North Carolina's state government, and so bingo, they passed this new voter suppression law. And this is what happened when The Daily Show persuaded a North Carolina Republican Party precinct chairman and Republican Party executive committee member to explain what the new voting law in North Carolina is really for.
The Voting Rights Act of 1965 protected voters from racial discrimination until June, when the Supreme Court struck down a key provision saying it was no longer necessary. which red states celebrated by introducing brand new, now constitutional, restrictive voting laws.
These laws are just as racist as they can be.
Congressman John Lewis apparently doesn't like progress.
In another time and another period, these devices was used to make it harder, make it difficult for the average person of color to participate in the process.
I don't think any part of the law is racist.
North Carolina Precinct Chairman and GOP Executive Committee member Don Yelton thinks his state's new voting restrictions are just fine.
What's going to happen as a result of this law, the process is going to have more integrity. Right here in Buncombe County, there's always one or two that voted twice a year. They don't know
One or 2 million people?
No, 1 or 2 people.
And that's 1 or 2 out of how many?
That's just 1 or 2 out of 60,000.
So statistically, there is enough voter fraud to sway 0 elections.
That's not the point. The bottom line is the law is not racist.
Of course the law is not racist, and you're not racist.
Well, I've been called a bigot before. Let me tell you something. You don't look like me, but I think I've treated you the same as I would anybody else.
Right.
Matter of fact, one of my best friends is black.
So one of your best friends
One of my best friends.
is black.
Yes.
And there's more.
When I was a young man, you didn't call a black, you called him a Negro. I had a picture one time of Obama sitting on a stump as a witch doctor, and I posted that on Facebook. I was making fun of my white half of Obama, not the black half. And now you have a black person using the term this, that, and it's okay for them to do it.
You know that we can hear you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you know that. You know that we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Then I found out the real reason for the law.
The law is going to kick the Democrats in the butt.
Wow! An executive GOP committee member just admitted that this law isn't designed to hurt black people, it's designed to hurt Democrats.
If it hurts a bunch of college kids that's too lazy to get up off their bohunkus and go get a photo ID, so be it.
Right.
If it hurts the whites, so be it. If it hurts a bunch of lazy blacks that wants the government to give them everything, so be it.
And it just so happens that a lot of those people vote Democrat.
Gee.
North Carolina Republican Party, everybody. Can I get an amen? That ran on The Daily Show last night. The local press in Buncombe County, North Carolina, reported today that the local chapter of the Buncombe County Young Democrats was holding a party tonight in downtown Asheville to watch the rerun of that interview. And it's clear why, right? This local Republican Party official, he's a precinct chairman. He's apparently on the Republican Party's executive committee, which is not as big a deal as it sounds. He actually said not only what he thinks about race, but also that the whole reason the Republican Party is changing voter laws in that state is not because of voter fraud or any of the other things they say. It's just to kick Democrats in the butt, as he put it. Mr. Yelton in North Carolina defended his comments to The Daily Show today. He said he stands by what he said. But he did get fired from his leadership jobs in the state party today because of that Daily Show episode. The state party chairman called for his head, and the county party chairman today said that he stepped down. Turns out this is the most awkward week possible for the North Carolina Republican Party to open up its African American outreach effort.
There's a lot of misinformation, and unfortunately, the Republican Party needs to get it together.
That's where a new African American recruitment office comes into play. It opened Monday in Charlotte and is intended to spearhead new relationships and bring over new minority GOP members.
So that's the new Republican Party black recruitment effort in North Carolina, opening up this week. Meanwhile, the Democratic Party black recruitment effort in North Carolina now just has to consist of this local Republican official playing on a loop.
If it hurts a bunch of lazy blacks that wants the government to give them everything, so be it.
And it just so happens that a lot of those people vote Democrat.
Gee.
Meanwhile, today, the North Carolina U.S. Senate race that's due up next year today got shifted by Larry Sabato from a toss-up rating to a leans Democratic rating, largely on the strength of how the Republican Party has been conducting itself in North Carolina of late. Quote, Other than the national dynamics, state-level issues are affecting the race in the Tar Heel state. Freshly minted governor, Republican Pat McCrory, and the Republican-controlled state legislature have passed a series of conservative measures into law, such as implementing new voter ID regulations. With the accompanying controversies over this and other legislation, Governor McCrory's approval rating is stuck in the 30s, while only about a quarter of the state approves of the legislature. The main beneficiary of the tanking Republican ratings in North Carolina has been Democratic U.S. Senator Kay Hagan, who is now in a better position to win re-election. With the leading Republican option in that race being the Republican State House Speaker, who's been directly involved in the unpopular actions of the General Assembly, Kay Hagan's chance of survival in that Senate race has definitely improved. Unless, of course, the Republican law designed to keep lazy black people and Democrats from voting does its job at the voting booth. Then the Republicans might be able to hold on. After the last presidential election, which was not all that long ago, the Republican Party said that they realized they were in a pickle. They did not want to gloss over the causes of their defeat in yet another presidential election. They didn't want to pretend it wasn't as bad for their party as it really was. They wanted to admit to what was wrong and to fix it.
When Republicans lost in November, it was a wake-up call. And in response, I initiated the most public and most comprehensive post-election review in the history of any national party. I didn't need the report to tell me that we have to do a lot better job and do a lot more to make up ground in minority communities. The report minces no words in telling us that we have to be more inclusive. I agree.
The report the Republican Party chairman was talking about then, right after the 2012 election, is this one. It's the Republican Party's Why We Lost the Election official autopsy. Minority groups that President Obama carried with 80% of the vote are on track to become a majority of the nation's population by 2050, the report said. America's changing demographically, and unless Republicans are able to grow our appeal, the changes tilt the playing field even more in the Democratic direction. So they get it, right? They get it. Even though this autopsy report was just supposed to be a technical document, it's not supposed to be a policy thing. On one issue, because of the Republican Party's issues with minorities, they could not help themselves from prescribing policy. They said, we are not a policy committee, but among the steps Republicans take in the Hispanic community and beyond, we must embrace and champion comprehensive immigration reform. If we do not, our party's appeal will continue to shrink to its core constituencies only. That was supposed to be the game plan for Republicans post-2012 election. Reach out to minority groups, be sincere, show we care, show what we have to offer. And also, honestly, guys, we seriously have to do something about immigration policy. We have to get on board with that. That was supposed to be the Republican game plan after the last election. That is not how the game has been going. In his first speech, his first public remarks after the Republicans' government shutdown ended and we pulled back from the brink of the debt ceiling, President Obama said that he did not want to pretend that Democrats and Republicans agree on a lot. But he said they should stop holding up everything in Washington based on just the things they disagreed about. The president made the case that they should instead try to move forward on some of the areas where Democrats and Republicans had broad-based, majority bipartisan agreement. He said, essentially, let's aim low. He didn't restate his whole second-term agenda. He said, let's just get some of the basics done that we all agree should be done. He said, let's do a farm bill, let's try to pass a budget for once, and let's do immigration reform. You guys said you wanted to do that. Let's do that. When the president made that case, right after the shutdown, the response from Republicans was not good. It was less than not good.
When you look at the substance of what he asked for, namely immigration reform, which obviously is something that many Republicans want to do, particularly after the way that they got really hit hard in the last election. They lost badly with Hispanic voters, Mitt Romney did in particular. Everybody wants to do it. I was asking you a question, really, what do you think the chances are of immigration reform happening? One email I got just said, ha, 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 straight across. Another said 0, and the third said, not happening right now.
Emails to CNN's Dana Bash from Republican members of Congress. How about immigration reform? You guys said you wanted that. And I quote, ha, 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 all in one line. The Republican Party's own plan for what they need to do to stop losing elections. Says they should work on immigration reform. Also says they should probably stop calling black people lazy and being so obvious about wanting to block them from voting. But maybe that one's too hard to stop. But immigration reform, this is supposed to be possible, right? Immigration reform, it passed the Senate. This summer, 14 Republican senators voted for it. It got 68 votes overall. And the Republican Party itself says that if it cannot find a way to support immigration policy, the whole party is dead in the water. And remember what they said after 2012. If we do not do this, our party's appeal will continue to shrink to its core constituencies only. That might not even fly in Buncombe County anymore. The party knows what it needs to do, but can they help themselves do it? Can they do it? President Obama today tried to throw them a lifeline, tried to give them another chance to do what they themselves acknowledge is their only way out.
Obviously, just because something is smart and fair and good for the economy and fiscally responsible and supported by business and labor and the evangelical community and many Democrats and many Republicans, that does not mean that it will actually get done. This is Washington, after all. So everything tends to be viewed through a political prism. And everybody's been looking at the politics of this. And I know that there are some folks in this town who are primed to think, well, if Obama's for it, then I'm against it. But I'd remind everybody that my Republican predecessor was also for it. I'd remind you that this reform won more than a dozen Republican votes in the Senate in June. I'm not running for office again. I just believe this is the right thing to do. I just believe this is the right thing to do.